Hello, lovely students. Welcome back to another exciting literature class. Today's class, we're going to be looking at the themes and style in Ralph Ellison's The Invincible Man. The themes and the style in Ralph Ellison's The Invincible Man. Our lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, the learner should be able to identify the themes in the novel, as well as analyze the style used by Ralph Ellison in this novel. So now, we're going to be looking at the themes. What is the message Ralph Ellison is trying to send to the general public through his book, Invisible Man? The first message we're going to be seeing is that of racism as an obstacle to individual identity. Racism as an obstacle to individual identity. As the narrator struggles to find his identity, his efforts are complicated by the fact that he's a black man living in a racist American society. He's living in a society where the Americans there are racist. The whites believe they are superior to the blacks, and finding his identity was very difficult because racism was that major obstacle that was blocking him from actually finding his footing, who he was and who he would be in the society. Another theme we're going to be seeing in this lovely book is the theme of invisibility. The theme of invisibility. The narrator wants to be seen as an individual in the society. He doesn't want to be seen as invincible. He doesn't want to be seen through the eyes of other people, living through the lenses of other people's expectations. He feels unseen. He is not fully recognized. The narrator repeatedly denies his true self just so he can make other people proud, and then they will notice him for who he is. But you can see that there were instances like the beginning where he participated in the blindfolding match after his graduation, and then as his prize he was given a scholarship to go to the school. That is him trying to prove himself in a very negative way. The second one was getting the scholarship and going to the university, the black college, where he has to be the chauffeur for Mr. Norton as assigned to him by the dean, Dr. Bledsoe. You see that he's trying to deny his culture and everything by doing certain things that black people aren't supposed to be doing, just so he will make people proud of him. We have other themes in this book. We also have the illusory promise of freedom. The illusory promise of freedom. As an educated man with both the ambition and talent necessary to lead the charge of black civil rights, the narrator initially believes in the promise of freedom. Coming to Harlem, he realizes that there are so many things he can do. There are so many things he can use his skills, his potentials, his experience, his talents to do to develop the black community. And he believes in the promise of freedom, that if he harnesses his talents and his skills, he will be able to actualize that promise of freedom for the blacks. However, his varied experiences as a young man show just how illusory his promise really is. He's a young man and there are so many forces around him, and he did not understand the planes of politics and how people were subduing the efforts at ensuring that the black people rise. The narrator often faces situations and authority figures that reinforce oppressions with roots in the time of slavery. There were people, there were situations, there were authority forces that were ensuring that the blacks never rise, no matter what, they remain where they are, and the whites will always be seen as supreme, while the blacks will always be seen as inferior. These oppressions consistently kept freedom out of reach. The black people were never to see freedom because there were certain people planted within them, among them, that were suppressing these efforts. We also have the theme of the self-interested nature of power. The self-interested nature of power. Throughout The Invincible Man, the narrator repeatedly comes up against authority figures who wield power in their own selfish interest. We see people that wield power to ensure that all his plans are suppressed. We see characters like Dr. Bledsoe, we see characters like the leader of the Brotherhood, Brother Jack, and even Ras the Exalter. These are characters that ensured that the narrator's dreams of making the black important will never be actualized. Now, let us look at the style. How did Ralph Ellison structure his novel? how did Ralph Ellison structure his novel? We're going to first look at the language. Ellison uses colloquial language. He uses colloquial language throughout the book, which makes it simple for readers to read, to understand. You can read the book and understand it because of the use of the simple languages, simple sentences. Yeah, so that's how Ellison structured his language in the book Invisible Man. We also have the use of symbolism. We see the use of symbols in the book. The book had certain symbols that were very, very important. We see the Sambo doll and the coin bank. The Sambo doll, remember, Todd Clifton was selling the Sambo dolls in the market. It was the narrator that saw him before the police shot him dead. So we can see a picture of what the Sambo doll looks like. The coin bank, which portrays a grinning slave who eats coins, embodies the idea of the good slave who farms over white men for trivial rewards. A good slave who will continue working for the white people for meager salaries. We also see the Samuel doll symbolizing the stereotypical power to control a person's movement altogether. The Sambo doll controls, you can only control the doll. The doll will never walk on its own. So he's symbolizing the power to control people's movements, restricting them to freedom. And then we see the Liberty Paints plant. Remember when the narrator came to the city, he decided to work for a white company called the Liberty Paints plant. They made white paints. So that Liberty Paints plant, it served as a complex metaphor for the African society with regards to race. Like America, it defines itself with notions of liberty and freedom, but incorporates a deeply ingrained racism in its most central operations. It tells you that America is a country of liberty and freedom, but when you come, you see that there are certain operations that have instances of racism. They have instances of racism. Let us look at another analysis of the book Invisible Man. We have the point of view. Ellison shows us that the unnamed protagonist of Invisible Man tells his own story from a first-person point of view. We're seeing the use of I. The reader sees the world exclusively through the narrator's eyes as he navigates a series of bizarre experiences and troubling encounters with both black and white characters. So we see the first-person point of view in the book, the use of I, me, my. Yeah, so that's the point of view, the first person narrative. Now let us look at the tone of Ralph Ellison while he was writing this. The tone of The Invisible Man is both frank and sardonic. The novel is frank in its portrayal of the conflict between black and white communities that persists nearly 100 years after the abolition of slavery in the United States. Despite the abolition of slavery nearly 100 years after, we're still seeing instances of racism, the conflict between the whites and the black. The sardonic aspect of the novel's tone comes across its grimly mocking frustration over the many forms of racism in US society that make racism all pervasive and seemingly impossible to eradicate. You can see that there is this frustration and you're trying to eradicate something and it's just not going because there are powerful forces trying to suppress this move. So, lovely students, we've analyzed the book The Invisible Man. We've seen the themes as well as the style, how Ralph Ellison wrote his book. So, we're going to be doing our little evaluation. Read the book and write down the literary devices in the text and examine the theme of invisibility. Read the book and write down the literary devices in the text and then examine the theme of invisibility. So, my lovely students, we've come to the end of our lovely class where we've analyzed the themes and style in Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. In our next class, we're going to be analyzing the characters in the book. Until then, it's me saying bye for now.